teachers. Julie Lindsay is an online learning coordinator who's worked all over the world, and currently she's serving as the e-learning coordinator at the BIS International School in Beijing, China. She's a new ISTE Board member and the co-creator of the Flat Classroom Project. Please give a warm welcome for Julie!
Thank you, Mario. Come and teach in the real Africa was the advertisement that inspired my husband and I to accept our first international teaching positions in Zambia, January 1998, sorry. Our daughter Violet was 3. We sold up most of our worldly possessions and left our hometown Melbourne on our new adventure, and over 13 years later we are still out there teaching internationally. At Simba School Zambia, I transformed from a music teacher into a computer teacher, where I was running an internet club as an after-school activity, and groups of students participated in IEarn Learning Circle projects. This was an environment where we had one single internet-connected computer that happened to be locked up in a room that was 5 minutes' walk away from our non-networked lab, but, you know, this didn't deter us. Moving to the Middle East, I found a different environment where every day my challenge was to be culturally sensitive to the host country while continuing to implement new technologies and ideas. In Kuwait, of course, the textbooks were highly censored and often large sections were blacked out. The internet was filtered, but we were still able to access necessary websites for education. The English School for Girls was my first position in Kuwait. This was a girls-only environment, no men at all allowed. This was problematic for me in one respect, as when I needed computers fixed as the computer teacher, I had to wait for after hours, long after hours, when all the girls and women had left, so I could bring in the male technicians. So, getting a little tired of this, I persuaded my head on a new arrangement. We agreed that if I yelled, "Man in the corridor," and waited for all girls to scuttle into the classrooms and put on their veils and scarves, I could then escort the technicians through to the computer lab. So that's what we did. I continued my global journey to Bangladesh, one of the poorest, most crowded and desperate countries in the world. But it was during this time at International School Dhaka that we implemented a Palm handheld one-to-one program in the middle school, at a time when, in fact, the devices at the start of our program weren't available in the country. I still laugh at the story told by my head of school when he literally carried 20 Palms in from the US and sweated all the way through customs into Bangladesh. Around this time, Web 2.0 was emerging as a platform for communication and collaboration. The time was ripe to embark on something new that could be scaffolded by online technologies and could join students across the globe in meaningful learning experiences. I joined my largely Bangladeshi classroom with Vicky Davis's Cool Cat teacher class from Georgia, USA, and the Flat Classroom Project was born. Moving back to the Middle East, however, and Qatar this time, I was concerned whether I could transplant the flat classroom into this more closed and sheltered community. Yes, the first challenges were technical, to do with tools and access. The second were political, relying on me reassuring my school administration nothing would happen to upset schools or students. But once these were solved, I focused on the real challenge of connecting students, teenagers across the world from very different cultures, but with many similarities. My fears were largely unfounded. Students wanted to connect and learn about the world, and they did it with pride, fascination, and excitement. I remember one parent, a beautiful Arabic woman in the abaya and the hijab, came to see me with tears in her eyes, exclaiming how excited the whole extended family were for her daughter to be in the Flat Classroom Project, collaborating using technology and learning about leadership, digital citizenship and communication. I was in tears as well, tears of relief as well as joy, thinking she had come to berate me for exposing her daughter to the wide world. China is another story. You have to be in China to understand how cut off from the world we can be at times, and how determined the powers to be are to keep it that way. But then again, I know many schools in the US, Australia and other advanced countries are also existing under the same conditions, by choice. If you are in this situation, remember my words about China. There is always a way to connect and communicate. You just have to be creative and persevere. So the ning goes down right after you encourage your entire staff to join during a workshop. So VoiceThread is blocked just after the elementary school teachers get really excited and madly implemented into their units of inquiry. Or in a strange twist of fate, EduBlogs blocks China, not the other way around, just after you set up your class blogs on this platform. Very early on with Flat Classroom, we saw the power and magic of connecting with others globally and the difference it was making to learning, including breaking through stereotypical attitudes and behaviours. Not only did we keep developing Flat Classroom projects, but we had a dream to bring students and teachers together, face to face, to cement these collaborations and work on actionable ideas. We thought if the impact of global collaboration was evident in an asynchronous project, imagine the opportunity for growth if we could get students and teachers from all parts of the world working together in the same place at the same time. Our dream came through in 2009 when the first Flat Classroom conference held in Qatar changed lives and cast a vision for the future of education. Then this year in Beijing, the second Flat Classroom conference, held at Beijing BIS International School, brought together over 200 participants, including 100 students, in a truly flattened learning mode where ideas were envisioned, shared and developed. This challenge-based event encouraged action projects for global curriculum and visions for improved education systems, and saw all participants, including virtual team members, working together. And we held it in China, behind the Great Firewall, or rather, running along the top. Being an international educator and having a daughter as a third culture kid, meaning having lived her formative years outside her country of origin, I selfishly want others around the world to experience what we are privileged to live. I want them to be confronted with different religions and cultural beliefs and be immersed in an environment where English or their own language is not spoken and where simple communication can often result in highly creative sign language. I want them to acknowledge and respect differences and learn how to use their personal strengths to create a bond of understanding with new friends. I want them to question, doubt, be amazed, experience alternative lifestyles, treasure similarities and learn how to get on with other people globally. And I want them to be able to do this without losing their own identity and sense of belonging to a country or to a culture, and without feeling superior or inferior to any other person. I encourage each of you to embrace your own global journey. And there are three things I'd like you to take away from this short presentation. Be open to alternatives. Remember, you can always yell, "Man in the corridor." If your IT people don't have the answers, find someone who does, or do it a different way. It's cool to be flat. Use whatever tools you can to connect yourself with the world. Go beyond the wow and embed global collaborative practice into everyday learning so that unflat classrooms are unusual. And if you're not doing it, it's not happening. In the words of Thomas Friedman in 2007 edition of The World is Flat, in the chapter he writes about Flat Classroom Project, so get out there and make it happen. There are no excuses left. We have the technology, we have the pedagogy, it's time to join the world. In closing, here is my wish for everyone. I wish you to experience meaningful connection and collaboration that is beyond the daily expectation, that is global in concept and practice and supports cultural understanding and makes a difference to the world as we know it, one classroom at a time. Thank you for joining me in my global journey.